Welcome to Scene Family Outdoors. Today, I'm going to do an overview on my custom 28 Nosler rifle and talk about the selections I made and focus a little bit on bullet selection and why ballistic coefficient should be the last of your concerns when picking out a hunting bullet. Alright, so custom rifles are something I'm really passionate about, and rifles in general, cartridges, hand loading, ballistic information. It's a fascinating topic, and I wanted to focus a little bit on how that impacts hunters. A lot of the things and advancements in talking about sectional densities and ballistic coefficients has become incredibly popular in the last decade, and that's really been brought on by the target shooting community. And it's made its way into hunting, and there's been some great advances in bullet design and options for all sportsmen, which is fantastic. Nothing wrong with having options. The thing that has surprised me in the last few years, and especially as I put in more time in the data myself, is why there's such a focus on these high ballistic coefficient bullets with high sectional densities for hunting, when there's an awesome amount of bullets that travel faster, have better trajectories at hunting distances, and most importantly, and this is the thing that gets neglected by most of us when we look at the back of a box of ammo or read an article online, they don't talk about terminal performance of these bullets. So it's gotten lost in the mix on picking out the right bullet for your hunting rifle, and I'm going to take a stab today at talking about why I put together the rifle I did, why I made the bullet selection that I did, and the data that I used and put together to make those decisions, and how you can do some of this yourself when you're looking at picking your next hunting rifle or maybe putting together a custom rifle yourself. And that's why I also have the computer with me. We are going to look at some numbers and some data today too. So I'll start out. Custom rifles may not be for everybody, right? If you're somebody who wants one rifle to hunt everything with, you may be best served getting an off-the-shelf rifle, and there's some great cartridges. I'd look at your 284 bullets and your 30 caliber bullets, so your 7 mils, your 30 cals. Find something in either like a 280 Ackley, 7 Rem Mag. I think the 7 PRC is a really interesting cartridge, especially for factory ammo. 28 Nosler, I have one here, so obviously I like it. 30-06, 300 Win Mag, 300 Short Mag, 300 PRC. There's some awesome factory chamberings out there, and if you don't hand load and you want one rifle to do everything, that may be your best avenue. But if you're a hand loader and you're looking for a specific tool for your yearly hunt, or for a hunt that's become something that you really look forward to, stick around and I'm going to talk through how I make those decisions, the conversations I've had with some awesome gunsmiths over the years in putting together custom rifles. So when I look at custom rifles, I start with questions. I want to define really what do I need out of a rifle to start with. So I'll ask questions like, what game am I hunting? What distances do I expect to hunt them at? Am I carrying anything else beside the rifle? Meaning, am I going on a 10-day hunt where weight becomes really important? Or am I on a backpack hunt, of a lightweight from the truck hunt, maybe a day pack, and I can take some more weight with me? I'd ask if you have any action preferences that you like. Are you in heavy brush conditions, or where a short barrel's needed for convenience? Or are you in open country where a longer barrel may be advantageous from an accuracy standpoint? And I say accuracy and how well you can handle that gun, or do you need something to navigate around the brush? So these are just some starting questions to think through, and then I look at optic desire and capability too, and what you want in your ideal optics setup as you look at a hunting rifle. So there's 3 things in a hunting rifle. As I talk through those, they come to these characteristics of your rifle, right? How much does it weigh? How long is it? What is it chambered in? And then what bullet does it shoot? Which is where we're going to spend most of our time here today. The 3 things people, I think, put way too much emphasis on in their rifle. Number 1, overall rifle weight. Unless you're doing that hunt I talked about where you're going to Alaska You're shaving ounces. Maybe you're going to the Northwest Territories, and gosh, every ounce I can save is paramount. If you're not in that specific situation, I'd argue you should be asking yourself, how much can I carry versus how light can I make it? Because every ounce you add to your rifle's weight adds to its shootability from a recoil standpoint and will likely help you be more accurate as you shoot that rifle as well. Like if you're sitting in a blind, who cares if it's a 15-pound rifle? If you just got to get it from point A to point B and there's nothing else you're carrying with you, give me the weight so I can have a more shootable and accurate rifle. I would take that every day. So I'll start out, there's one. The second one, I think most people tend to be over-scoped. There's been a big trend towards getting 20 plus power zoom, 25 power zoom, 32 power zoom, low end zoom. Even more important, the upper end range is probably fine, but when you get into that lower range, if your scope starts with a 6, if you're 6 to 18, 6 to 24, 6 to 30, stop. This is a hunting rifle. You want to be at least 4x as your maximum minimum, right? So you should be able to go down to at least 4 power. If I know that I'm going to be in a hunt that has close quarters, I'll opt for a 2 to 10 or even a 1 to 6 on some rifles that traditionally we get the old standard 3 to 9 scope. So I think most people tend to be over-scoped, and that leads to a challenge with target acquisition, and it's easy to kind of get the shakes when you're zoomed up too high hunting animals, where if you can keep that field of vision big, it's easier to find your target, get on target, and aim for the center of the vitals with less zoom versus more zoom. It seems counterintuitive, but with this rifle, I've taken 2 animals in that 500-yard range, one at 7 power, one at 5 power. The field of vision really helps in acquiring target. Finally is bullet choice. And when I look at bullet choice, you have things like the accuracy that I can achieve with that bullet. You have the sectional densities and the ballistic coefficients are things in that bullet. And the terminal performance is probably the most overlooked thing in bullets, but in a hunting bullet, probably should be one of our top things in hunting bullets. And I think the final thing most people put too much emphasis on is high BCs in their bullets instead of outstanding terminal performance. And accuracy being somewhere in the okay range is likely preferable to having poor terminal performance. So understanding what you need from a capability standpoint in your rifle, incredibly important. So let's look at this rifle I have set up, and I'm going to walk through the rifle that I built first, and the bullet choice that I made and why I made it second. So first, this is a 28 Nosler. It is built on a Winchester Model 70 Action. This Action started life as a stainless steel 300 Remington Ultra Mag Winchester Model 70 Action, so that's the donor action for the rifle. It is chambered with a Proof Research 26-inch barrel, 1 and 8 twist, chambered in 28 Nosler. The stock is a Macmillan HTG. I chose the Macmillan HTG because it gives me flexibility. It has kind of that higher comb, if I want to get a good optic and get prone for a shot, it performs well there. But if I still need to pull up on an animal inside of, say, 50 yards and make a shot, it's capable of doing that too. The optic is 3.5 to 18 power, so in that close range instance, and I always leave the optic set at 3.5, just where it stays at to start. If I got to shoot longer, I almost always have time to crank it, and really at 3.5 power, 300 yards is no problem. So 3.5 to 18, the 18 power is great when I want to dial in hand loads. I appreciate it. I've never shot an animal over 7 power with this rifle. It's a Swarovski X5i. I went heavier with this rifle rifle scope than I normally do because the build allowed for it. This rifle weighs 10.5 pounds as a system. I am using the edge fill on the Macmillan stock. The Proof barrel is a full Sendero contour, and going with the carbon it wasn't to shave weight off the rifle. it was to maintain rifle weight while getting a heavier contour. So I don't think of the carbon barrel as a weight savings, because I would never put a steel Sendero barrel on a hunting rifle. It's just too heavy and too front heavy for me. But it does help me get the same benefits of the Sendero steel contour while keeping my weight in line with a steel, more medium contour barrel. Then the trigger, this is a New Haven Model 70, so this is just a stock Winchester trigger that's been tuned up by the gunsmith. It's set at 2 pounds. It's where I like my rifles, especially a rifle for me that's meant to be shot from prone more often than it is to be shot from, say, shooting stick. So with that route, I use 2-piece worn rings. I don't like rails on hunting rifles. I want rings, and I want that bell of the scope as close to the barrel as possible, and that's how this rifle's set up. Spartan Javelin bipod, I love these for the modularity. It keeps that front of the rifle clean as I'm carrying it. I can add it on quick. Super sturdy. I've taken 2 animals with this on at 500 yards, one at 501, one at 496. Outstanding. Been very happy with this rifle overall. So most people, as we kind of wrap up some of the high level things on this scope and rifle and scope, one thing I'll add, flip covers on scopes, must have. I love what Swarovski has on theirs. I have some Leupold scopes too. They make good flip caps for Leupold, but these Swarovski ones are in another class. They're outstanding. Bullet selection. So we're going to spend the rest of this time talking through bullet selection and that choice and how it played into looking at cartridges too. And I will do another video breaking down cartridge to cartridge comparisons in the future. I think there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of almost marketing to stack the deck in one cartridge's favor that you see, and I think it's time to I want to call some of that out. So I'll do another video just talking through the logic and how you can maybe better digest that information as a consumer, as a hunter, moving forward too. So I'm shooting a 145 grain all copper bullet. It's the Hammer Hunter. They market it as, it's labeled as a 143 grain bullet. It actually weighs 145 grains. And let's dive into the numbers. I'm going to compare it to a 195 grain Burger. All right, so you can see I have the numbers up here on the screen, and I'm looking at the 28 Nosler 145 grain Hammer Hunter. I have the bullet sectional density at 0.257, G7 ballistic coefficient at 0.230. Now, when we look at the velocity, I've chronographed this myself. I'm getting velocities at 3550, and what that lets me really do is I've got a laser beam for a rifle. We're using 100-yard zeros. I'm, only not even dropping 7 inches out to 300 yards. We got to 400 yards, down to 16.3, and then we got to 30 inches at 500, and finally 50 inches at 600. I have some of the wind drift information here, energy, velocities. We can talk wind drift a little bit, because that's the one weakness I would say that you get with the 195 grain Burger that you do not get with the Hammer Hunter. That's where that ballistic coefficient does come in handy. Some things I want you to focus on though is the trajectory. You would believe by all the marketing material and how every gun writer in the country talks that Burger bullet is going to be the flattest shooting bullet you've ever seen. There's going to be no drop to it. It's just outstanding. Wrong. Like, shooting that lighter bullet faster gives you a better trajectory than the Burger bullet. Now, what is true is that you maintain energy much better with the Burger bullet. Even though I start out with a higher muzzle energy, the energy falls off really fast on these lightweight bullets. However, I'm talking about my requirements for a rifle, and I think that's important to go back to. What are the requirements for the build that you're doing and the hunt you're on? I'm out to 600 yards. I'm holding 1,700 foot-pounds of energy. I'm hunting elk and deer. I'm keeping my velocity still is at 2307. These are all things that, this is the kind of thing that I care about when it comes to a hunting round and it's meeting those requirements. Wind drifts, you can see some differences here, but really once they're at, say, 400 yards, we're a couple inches, we're still within a margin of error. Once you start getting 600 plus, yeah, there's going to be a big advantage in that burger bullet. And that's why if you are doing 1,000 yard shooting, 1,500 yard shooting, I'd be making a different bullet choice. But I'm not. I'm doing 600 yard shooting. I'm going to show another one too. This is just a quick chart to show some of the differences in these cartridges. So a few things I want to point out. What this shows is that at 1,000 yards, the trajectory starts to become flatter on the burger. So what that means is that for every incremental yard past this point, the burger is dropping less than the hammer. It took 1,000 yards until the rate of trajectory change was better in the burger. And we had to get all the way out to about 1,300 yards until we finally see the burger become flatter in trajectory. So if trajectory is the end-all be-all, and it's not for everybody, that's what it takes. And I just want to highlight this to show how important that initial muzzle velocity can be. And this is kind of my evidence set for why, especially at 600 yards, I was drawn into that hammer bullet. Another thing I want to hit on is looking at the hammer hunter compared, and we're going to use the same bullet. We're going to assume I want to use this hammer hunter at 145 grains, and I want to compare why would I use this 28 Nosler, this hot rod cartridge, versus a 7 Rem Mag or a 7mm 08. So what we're looking at is if you had a 400 yard zero, every 25 yards we go out from here, that's the subsequent drop. This is what's important to me. And this is really why I have a 28 Nosler. If I'm building the perfect Western rifle for me. And it's these incremental ranges. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was out west, my first hunt with this rifle, 4 mule deer. There's a nice buck, an older buck. He spotted us. We had the high ground. This buck was coming. It was a morning. He was coming up off of feeding back to bed. He busted us with the sun, hit us at the wrong angle, and he took off, and we put a quick stock to try to cut off where he was running to. And this buck was going uphill away from us, and I had a friend with me who had the rangefinder, and I had this rifle. I was using a rock in front of me with a bipod on it as a base, as a rest, and he's shouting out ranges, and I'm dialing my scope, getting in, and it was 375, no 400, no 420. And after it felt like a fraction of a second goes by, and that buck turns and gives a look. And I put the rifle crosshairs on that buck, right up on his shoulder, squeezed, and completely rolled this deer. I had my rifle set for a 425 yard shot. In that short distance of time, and when we got another range on where that impact was at, that deer is at 496 yards. So there's real world hunting, right? Like there's two ways we shoot rifles. There's real world hunting where animals move, things change fast, and shot opportunities can be measured in seconds. And then you're at the range, you're on a bench, you have a steel target at a known distance, and you can dial in with your Kestrel, read your wind, and make a shot. So if we look at the numbers on what we saw, say I'm dialed in this scenario at 400 yards, and that deer is 75 yards different. I've got a 2-inch advantage over the Remington Magnum, and I got nearly a 4-inch advantage on trajectory on that 7mm 08. And if we were using, and this is where I've optimized the bullets in these situations too. If I really wanted to show you numbers that were stacking the deck in my favor, I'd show the 7mm 08 with a heavy ELDX or Burger bullet or AccuBond long range or some big heavy bullet that's really trendy, and this number would get even more drastic, and then you'd start to see this advantage of really what a lighter bullet can do for you on narrowing that trajectory up. So I credit the forgiveness of the 28 Nosler in that instance and the speed of the 28 Nosler and being able to successfully harvest that deer versus missing that deer out of the vitals and potentially missing altogether in that hunt. And I think that's real world hunting and real world why this stuff matters in a rifle. So I hope this was informational and that you enjoyed going over the rifle. I've been super happy with the performance. I love putting together these custom builds, and if there's some things that I'd walk away from if you're thinking about a custom rifle, I'd build a custom rifle for a specific set of conditions that you expect to encounter, right? If you were to sit back and say like, I want to build a rifle that's a do-all rifle, I can kind of hunt everything with it, I would tell you to look at like a 7 PRC. I think is a really, really good cartridge that has going to have readily available ammo. I like that size. Or a 280 Ackley improved, 7mm Rem mag, 300 Win mag, 30-06, 300 short mag. I'd grab one of those off the shelf. I'd put a decent hunting bullet behind it, and I'd go hunt everything with it. Right? Like that's a fair path forward if you're a one rifle person and you want to have kind of a general rifle. But if you're looking to build a tool for a job and put together the perfect rifle for your hunt, ask yourself those questions. What game am I hunting? What distances am I hunting them at? What action do I like? Can I get a configuration that meets those needs today? What's the stock pattern that would be perfect for those conditions? Am I hiking a lot? What's my overall weight going to look like? And kind of arrive at the rifle configuration that you're looking for. I think you can make hunting more enjoyable and have a better experience. And the last, I almost forgot this point. The last thing I'll throw in is if you are looking at a custom rifle and you're not a hand loader, stop and get a factory rifle. A custom rifle shines when you hand load for it. Not that it can't shoot great with factory ammo, but if you really want to have a custom rifle do the thing that you want to do, hand loading it with the perfect bullet at the perfect load for that rifle is going to get the most out of it. And I'd argue that you're better suited for your money and your effort and your ultimate output to get a factory rifle if you're shooting factory ammo. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a few other custom rifles I may go over in the future. If anything you want to see, please leave in the comments below. I might do another video here in the near future on how to compare cartridge to cartridge and bullets to bullets. I think there's a lot of cool information on how people compare a lot of these numbers today, but at the same time, there's a lot of ways that you can skew things in favor of one cartridge versus the other, and I'm excited to share my opinion on how best to compare rifle to rifle moving forward. Thanks again, like and subscribe, and until next time, get out there and enjoy the outdoors.